Hank Linderman here on Friday, October 16th. So glad to have you all here. We are getting angry. Getting angry, which means you don't get to act like a damn fool. You use your anger to focus yourself, to focus your determination, your courage, to do the things you need to do. Have a look outside here at Falls of Rough, Kentucky. You can hear all that wind. And we've had a Canadian invasion, so you may hear some Canadian geese. Wow, we're already got Bill McNichol here. You know what to do. You got to share. Mary Richardson is here. I got some big news for you, Mary. And Cindy Franklin is here. Thank you all for sharing. We got news that tomorrow is the day we're finally going to have a phone call from Timothy Schmidt. He's going to be with us tomorrow. You all aren't hearing me. Everybody else is hearing me. Let me know if you're not hearing me, if we got to restart this. Anyway, so look, here I am. What a beautiful day. Maybe I can show you something else we're doing today. I'm going to show you some behind the scenes stuff. So this is what the studio looks like. Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me? Yep, everybody's hearing me. Okay, good. Yeah, this is some behind the scenes stuff. We have a new thing over here that I'm going to point at that's a teleprompter. Wow. That's a big deal. That means I'm going to be able to read my speeches and look right at the camera. I may demonstrate that sometime. All right. Woohoo, I heard you. Yes, good news tomorrow. Timothy's going to call, or we're going to call him. Now, another thing is we're going to start earlier tomorrow. Instead of 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern, we're going to start at 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern, because I've been invited to be part of a national Facebook Live event with the National Young Democrats. I'm very, very excited about it. And so only a few national candidates are going to get to speak with them, but I'm very, very excited about it. So I'll be doing that. Anyway, well, here we are. What else can we talk about? I mean, we had the debate last night. One description was Mr. Rogers, of course misspelled by the Trump supporter, Mr. Rogers versus Trump. And Trump was portrayed as the angry uncle, the angry old uncle. But whatever. I guess we got some homework to do. We could look at some homework. Why don't we do that? And we'll carry on from there. I've got a couple of interesting things to share with you. Here's the first one. We continue this sad rise into, and look, India, which has a lot more population than we do, they've got 1 billion more people than we have in the United States. We have, 331 million. They've got 1,383,000,000. So they've got us beat in terms of the amount of population they've got, but they're working on catching up with us on the virus, and yet even they've slowed down. We have jumped back into the front in terms of new cases for the day. Looks like we are number one in the world again. We still have the most cases overall. 873 new deaths. Really, really terrible. You just feel badly for the families, because you know that if we had done the right thing, most of the people that died would still probably be alive. South Dakota had another record of 793, and we're going to look at South Dakota here in a minute. In fact, maybe right now we're going to see South Dakota. Yeah, look down there. South Dakota has a population of less than 1 million people, 854,000, and yet they had 797 new cases, an explosion of cases. And you can't help but think this has got to be related to the event, the motorcycle event in, what was the name of the event? Help me out. Sturgis, the Sturgis event. I don't know if you remember, we looked at the cell phone tracings of the people that had traveled through Sturgis, that had come from all over the country and then wound up in Sturgis. And then they went home, and it literally covered every corner of the United States. Well, so did the virus, and it infected the rest of the country, and it infected South Dakota. Anyway, have a quick look at Kentucky. We had our worst single day, I believe, of new cases, 1,182, and 20 new deaths, which may be our highest number, which is just incredibly tragic. You know, for those of you that are musicians, I know a lot of you are musicians out there, or at least concerned about your hearing. We saw a story recently that you could have sudden loss of hearing. It's rare, but sudden loss of hearing due to the virus. So everybody, please remember, this is a critical time. So you really need to keep your distance. I talked to a friend who's got a business in Louisville, and he said they had one person test positive, and it was someone who would not wear their mask and was walking through the building kind of regularly and kind of flaunting things. And that person tested positive. Someone else ended up testing positive, but they believe that's it. They've got control of it. But it was a close call. And so those of you that think it's not important to wear masks, you really need to think again. So not to shame anybody or do anything like that. Let's just do the right thing, please. Let's just look out for each other. Seems like it should be easy. All right. We're going to look back at some numbers. And I keep showing you this. This is from Johns Hopkins University by way of Naked Capitalism. And look, it's just arcing right back up, almost as steeply as the initial two. In fact, that's interesting. I hadn't noticed this before. The first leap up to the first wave is very steep. The second one is not quite as steep, and maybe this third one is not quite as steep as well, but still the numbers are increasing, and it's just alarming. Well, let's look at some other numbers. These are interesting as well. This is a look at the electoral map, and I kind of squirreled this around a little bit so that you could see, look at the writing right there. See the writing up at the very top. On October 3rd, Indiana moves from safe to likely Republican. So it went from safe Republican to likely on the 3rd. Then Indiana moves again. October 13th, Indiana moves from likely back to safe Republican. Today, Indiana moves back from safe to likely Republican. So the comment they make here at Naked Capitalism is, I would say the election is no longer static. It's actually moving against President Trump. And we're seeing right there that there's a prediction for 290 electoral votes for Mr. Biden. Let me say hi to everybody real quickly. Ellen Sue is here. Hi, Ellen. You're going to share. Chris Pritchard already shared. Yeah. Barbara Ticci is here. Hi, Barbara. Brenda's here. Mary is here. Okay. It's so great to have you all visit. Well, let's look at a couple of other stories that we have here. Let me see if this one comes up. This is related. An additional 75,000 Americans may have died in the spring and summer because of COVID-19. We've talked about this before. This is the first article I've brought forward to show you. This one's from Business Insider, but it's based on an article that was done. Let's see if I can find the writing on that. No, I don't. It was covered in the Journal of American Medicine, the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, right? And I believe it might have been done at another university, and I can't remember which university did it. It might have been Rochester, New York, or something they studied. Anyway, we've been counting deaths as COVID, but we've also been looking at how many more deaths we have this year that were unexpected. You know, we have a pretty good idea how many deaths are going to be showing up each year. We have actuaries that study all this stuff. And this year, whatever that number was, it was significantly bigger, and it was even bigger than the amount that includes COVID. So what that means is if today, let's go back to our first number. Our first number says 222. So you add 75,000 to that. We are actually probably pushing 200,000, 300,000 deaths, 300,000 deaths. It took me a minute to do the math. 222,000 currently. We will probably get close to 223 today. once those numbers come in, and add 75 to that, you're right at 300,000. So just terrible. Let's go back to this story. So bear that in mind when you count these numbers. Here's some of the text from it. Approximately 75,000 more Americans died from issues related to COVID from the beginning of March to the beginning of August. That's just March to August. Now, that's an interesting thing, just March to August. So there are probably additional folks that we haven't been counting. So that would say to me we are over 300,000 deaths. They found that the number of deaths in the U.S. between March and August 1st was 20% higher than is typical, but only 67% of those excess deaths had been officially attributed to the novel coronavirus. According to the study, deaths in excess could be the result of undetected COVID-19 or the result of delays in medical care caused by the pandemic. So there could be other factors, but they appear to be all related to COVID. So that's really, really terrible. You all got the news. We're having the phone call with Timothy tomorrow. And by the way, of course, it is always okay to contribute. I got an email today from a contributor who's sending a check. I'm very, very happy about it because they were people that had contributed before. They understand how important it is for us to make some changes politically. And some of the changes we talk about, maybe this is a good time to talk about that. Because I've shown you, for example, the contract for rural and working America, the things that we want to work on going forward to make a difference in the lives of people who live in rural America and also people who work for a living. And they are restoring health care in rural America. If you don't live here, you may not realize that rural hospitals are disappearing. Education and child care, we need to do a better job of education, of course, but we also need a national child care program. We need a place that parents can drop off their kids where their kids will be safe and taken care of so they can go to work. And it needs to be sort of like our public schools, that everyone is welcome and that it gets paid for out of our property taxes or whatever, because it will make a better world for us. We need support for small subsistence and family farms. We're about to lose the family farm. I don't need to tell you how terrible that is. It's a very, very bad thing. And we need to also start do a better job of eating local food. That's what that's about. Rebuilding our domestic supply chain, rebuilding our infrastructure, a living wage, higher pay for workers, support for workers in declining industries, for example, like truckers who are about to lose their jobs due to automation. So it goes on and on. That's why this district and others like it are so important. This is where we can make a difference that will make the country better. It will make the United States better. It'll make the world better. And of course, it'll make things better here in rural Kentucky. Barbara says, what time are we on tomorrow? 1:30 Central, so 2:30 Eastern. I'll be starting early tomorrow so that I can be part of that national day of action with the Young Democrats, and thank you to them, by the way. I'm excited about speaking with them. All right, let's see. I have something else we can talk about that's kind of interesting, and some of you don't know this, but we have some people checking in. Chris Pritchard checks in from Bay Village High School. Bay Village is in Ohio, and that's right along Lake Erie, and it's west of Cleveland. Well, guess what? I went to school in Cleveland, Ohio, and there's a reason that I went to school in Bay Village, Ohio, just west of Cleveland. Only 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year in high school. Remember, our family moved around a whole lot. When we left Bay Village, we moved to Kentucky, and so my junior and senior year were in Louisville, Kentucky. But my freshman and sophomore year were memorable. And one of the things that was memorable was the church our family went to, which was called St. Barnabas Episcopal Church. And I remember going to St. Barnabas, and we had a great youth pastor named Ernie DeRoss, and he took us all on a bus trip. We got in a school bus and drove all the way to Wyoming. We had just a fantastic trip. Well, Bay Village is in the news, and it's for the strangest thing. I'm just going to show this to you. This is, once again, from Naked Capitalism. See, you all know what I'm going to talk about if you just read Naked Capitalism. In Bay Village, someone called the cops on a sleeping homeless person. It was a statue of Jesus. 20 minutes after a homeless Jesus sculpture was installed on the grounds of St. Barnabas Episcopal Church in Bay Village, someone called the cops. Created by Canadian sculptor Timothy Schmaltz. Are we sure it wasn't Ted Schmaltzky? I think they might have gotten that name wrong. Ted Schmaltzky might have been the person who did that. The sculpture depicts Jesus as a homeless person lying on a bench covered in a blanket. It was purchased by the local community West Foundation and has been traveling to churches and other religious organizations across the region since October 2018. Now, to be fair, Bay Village Police Chief Kathy Leisure confirmed the October 12th call to the Scene magazine and said the caller had advised police dispatch they were unsure if the homeless individual was a human being or a statue, but maybe they could have gotten a little closer. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's a wonderful thing. We have a picture of homeless Jesus. There's homeless Jesus right there. And that should make us all think about our relationship with the homeless as well. Like when I was growing up, the homeless were not, they weren't on the street. They weren't homeless. A lot of them are folks that have severe mental disabilities, and they were in various institutions, which are not ideal answers for the problem, but they weren't living on the street. And I believe in the 80s, one of the things that happened is that those public hospitals opened up and basically put a lot of homeless people on the street. A lot of those homeless folks are former vets. So this is a national tragedy. I'm going to read you a little bit about homeless Jesus. 20 minutes after a homeless Jesus sculpture was installed on the grounds, we already read that. The sculpture reminds us that even though homelessness is not a significant problem in our immediate neighborhood, we don't have to drive too far to find those in tremendous need. Yes, indeed. That is certainly true. You know what I'm missing? I appear to be missing my stories about Rudy Giuliani. Where did he go? I had a Rudy Giuliani story. Where is it? I've got it right here. So I've got to put that back up here, and we'll have a look at it. Number 8. Here we go. So this is, we're going to talk about Rudy Giuliani a little bit. Remember, Rudy is the source. He's involved. He's got his fingers all over that story about Hunter Biden. And I guess we need to start briefly to talk about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, Vice President Biden's son, who's had a troubled past. He's had trouble with drugs. I believe he's been arrested. He's got various bits of drama in his life. But he wound up accepting a job as an attorney working for an energy company in Ukraine called Burisma. Burisma had been investigated by the Ukrainian Justice Department, but that investigation had been dormant for some period of time, maybe 10 years, and certainly before Joe Biden's son Hunter was on their board of directors. But the investigation still was going on. Anyway, one of the things that happened was that supposedly Hunter Biden introduced someone from that, someone from Burisma. He, in an email, promised to introduce him to his father. There's no indication that ever happened, but shouldn't have been that big a deal. But that was presented as a smoking gun and proof that there had been some sort of terrible business going on between the Ukraine and Joe Biden. Now, by the way, Joe Biden did apply, as vice president, apply pressure to the Ukraine to have their federal prosecutor fired. And the claim is by the right that prosecutor was who was looking into Burisma. That's who was looking into Burisma. So therefore looking into Hunter Biden, and Biden arranged to have that prosecutor fired. That's not the story at all, according to Vice President Biden, and his story has not changed over the years, and he discussed this while he was still in office. They were upset with the prosecutor that was there because he wasn't doing any prosecuting, and it looks like the prosecution of Burisma was already dormant, so that's their explanation of it. Well, I really want you to go look at the Washington Post and this story. White House was warned that Giuliani was the target of a Russian intelligence operation to feed misinformation to Trump. And we're, of course, we're aware, you should be aware, that the Russia is involved quite a bit in the internal politics of the Ukraine. And in fact, there are attempts to kind of overrun the Ukraine and pull it back into what used to be the Soviet Union. So apparently, U.S. intelligence agencies warned the White House last year that President Trump's personal lawyer, Rudolph Giuliani, was the target of an influence operation by Russian intelligence. This is according to 4 former officials familiar with the matter. The warnings were based on multiple sources, including intercepted communications that showed Giuliani was interacting with people tied to Russian intelligence during a December 2019 trip to Ukraine, where he was gathering information he thought would expose corrupt acts by former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter. So the intelligence, U.S. intelligence agencies warned the White House that they believed Giuliani was being used to feed misinformation to the president. The warnings to the White House, which haven't been previously reported, led National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien to caution President Trump in a private conversation that on any information that Giuliani brought back should be considered contaminated by Russia. The message was, do what you want to do, but your friend Rudy has been worked by Russian assets in Ukraine. They wanted to protect the president from coming out and saying stupid, as one official said, since he was facing impeachment. But O'Brien emerged from the meeting uncertain whether he had gotten through to the president. Trump had, quote, shrugged his shoulders and said, dismissed his attorney's actions by saying, that's Rudy. That's Rudy. So anyway, there's a video at this site, at this story, that you really should watch. It's about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it will be very illuminating to you. It'll take you 10, 12, 15 minutes. There are a couple of things I don't like about the video. I don't like factual videos loaded up with dramatic music. Dun, 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 dun. That's somebody trying to manipulate me, so I don't care very much for that. And I also do not care I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I really don't care. Your children, if you're a government official, you've really got to keep an eye on what your relatives are up to. Because we cannot have, and I don't know what the answer is, because on the one hand, we don't want a president to be influenced by what his children are up to, going out and cutting deals. You know, when we were growing up, the first person I remember thinking we had to worry about was Jimmy Carter's brother, Billy Carter. And Billy Carter was always showing up and kind of messing up the deal. And he ended up putting out something called Billy Beer. He got involved with something, Billy Beer. So that was the extent of his corruption, using the last name Carter while his brother was president to sell some beer. I think at one point I had a 6-pack of it and I intended to keep it. I have no idea where that went. So I don't know what a 6-pack of Billy Beer would be worth now. Anybody want to guess? What would a 6-pack be? But that continued on. Remember Roger Clinton, who showed up and did various embarrassing things. And even when they are connected to business, I think this is questionable. Like I say, on the other hand, if you're the son of the vice president, you're entitled to earn a living. But I think there really should be some limits in terms of where you should be allowed to earn a living. And I think that Hunter Biden's involvement with Burisma is a problem. Cindy Franklin's offered me $2 for the 6-pack of Billy Beer. If only plus shipping. Plus shipping. Mary Trump is pretty cool. Anyway, I think that there's lots of family members. When political families get very, very powerful, like the Clinton family, like the Bush family, like the Trump family, like the Kennedys, all of them, we have to be very, very careful about how much influence we allow them to have. I think it's appropriate when, if you're doing charity work, for example, but your charity better actually be a charity. A lot of the money that you raise needs to go to the thing you're trying to help. And we see that, by the way, in a lot of charities. They'll raise, for every dollar they raise, they spend 80 cents getting that dollar? That seems wasteful. Oh, look, someone's got some Billy beer available. What are they asking for it, Chris? How much is Billy beer? I might need some. We might need some Billy beer. So anyway, please do yourselves a favor. I think this is a good answer to the breathless accusations of Hunter Biden, which are a problem, but apply to every political family in the United States and probably on Earth. So do yourself a favor and get used to it. Or sorry, get educated on that. My brain just went away. $17.50 per can. So Cindy, maybe you meant $20 a can or $2 each. Maybe that's what she meant. All right, I have some lighthearted things to share with you because one more lighthearted thing. Skunked by NOQ. Skunked by NOQ. What is skunked by NOQ? You're going to have to explain that to me. Well, let's have a look. Something funny happened. You know, President Trump is so naive sometimes on Twitter, and we saw that last night. And by the way, I'm very curious how the women out there feel about Trump saying to, is her name Savannah Guthrie, saying that he said to her, "Oh, you're cute," when she was kept pushing him, "You're cute." Wondered how that went over with women. Anyway, apparently he retweeted a story. Remember, she had pushed on him for retweeting QAnon stories that just on the face of them seemed ridiculous. Well, apparently he retweeted one. Appears to earnestly share a satirical website's take on Twitter. It was published by the Babylon Bee. I went and looked at the page. Here's the story Trump retweeted. Twitter shuts down the entire network to slow the spread of negative Hunter Biden news. And President Trump bought it and retweeted that. How ridiculous is that? He got fooled. He really got fooled. All right. We don't know what NOQ is. Knock. What's NOQ? Nobody's answering. All right. Remember, tomorrow we're going to do some more music. There's a new TED video coming. Barbara says she didn't listen. I stayed with Biden. I can't look or listen to Trumputin. I have a feeling he's done, but look, folks, don't slow down, okay? Be sure you get out there and vote. I've just gotten a Facebook message from some friends who said they voted, so very excited about that and voted for me. I think this is one of those years where people are, just going in. They're just going in and voting Democrat or Republican, and I think that's making a huge, huge difference. All right, well, anyway, tomorrow, remember, an hour early, so 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 Central. We'll do 90 minutes of music, and we're going to have a visit from one of the Eagles tomorrow. Can you believe it? Unbelievable. I'm so excited about it. Well, anyway, it's time to move on. I'm going to see you all tomorrow. Thank you all for being here. You certainly make my day, and makes it easier to get up and do this every day, knowing that you all are being so helpful. So thank you all. And I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, if you're getting angry, use it to focus yourself. Don't become a damn fool. Use it to do the things you need to do. All right. Love you all. Take care.